Hello and welcome to Freethought Forum, a program put together by the Atheist Society of Knoxville and the Rationalists of East Tennessee. I'm Larry Rhodes.
And I'm Faithless Forrest. And we want you to know that if you don't believe in God, even in East Tennessee, you're not alone. We want to speak to you today about what atheism has to offer. And while we go over a few announcements, we invite you to call in at the number on your screen and speak to us, ask us questions, or perhaps if you're a non-believer, you can give us other reasons of what atheism has to offer.
And if you're not in this area, the area code is 865. So you can call it from anywhere. You may happen to be watching this over the web.
All right. Happy
hour with the Atheist Society of Knoxville going on right now downtown in the Old City at Barley's Tap Room and Pizzeria. We go down there after the show to join them for food, drink, and conversations. Tomorrow, Wednesday, the 12th, we'll be meeting at Mellow Mushroom for happy hour for more of the same. Look for the silver-jacketed copy of The God Delusion standing upright on the table so you'll know where we are.
All right. And the Rationalists of East Tennessee have a reflections dinner on the 23rd, and these dinners have a sort of a subject. It's reflections on society's attitudes towards non-believers. You know, have member of your family accepted your non-belief? How may have this affected your relationship with family members or co-workers? And how do you, have your kids deal with the question of their potential belief or non-belief? All righty. See our website for times and locations.
If you can't see them, there's rationalist.org and
there we are.
KnoxvilleAtheist.org as well.
All right. Well, Larry?
In addition to these RET and ASK events, this month at the University of Tennessee, a lecture that will be of interest to some of our members and the general public will be, Does the New Testament Contain Forgeries? The Surprising Claims of a Modern Scholar by Bart D. Ehrman. He will be at the University Center Auditorium Thursday, January 27th at 5 o'clock.
All right. And he's written a few books here. I think they have some provocative titles. Mm-hmm. We've got Jesus Interrupted, Revealing the Hidden Contradictions in the Bible.
And Misquoting Jesus, the story behind who changed the Bible and why.
And then finally, Lost Scriptures, books that did not make it into the New Testament. All right.
You may have heard of some of the missing books that have come recently to light, like the book of Mary and the book of
Judas.
And so there were plenty of books that did not make it into the New Testament.
All right. Well, we hope our viewers had a nice time over the holidays, and we hope that you're not snowed in here in Knoxville. For viewers farther out, we've had a challenging snowstorm, mm-hmm. and we hope you're all, the power is still coming to your place, and you're all warm and snug.
And the first white Christmas we've had in 20 years, so that's nice.
That's right. Mm-hmm. So today we want to talk about what atheism has to offer. And so I grew up not believing in the supernatural. It was not actually until I came to Tennessee that I met people who had been firm believers, and I was frankly shocked that they took seriously things that I considered as just sort of expressions, sort of hyperbolic, however that phrase is, hyperbole, yes. Mm-hmm. You know, when people talked about, the fear of God and that this could be like a burden that they, literally walked around worrying about, mm-hmm. I was rather shocked. Now, Larry, you grew up as a believing Christian, right?
I did. My mother was probably what you call in charge of the religion in the family, but she was certainly not an oppressive person. She was a very loving, very giving person. My father wasn't very religious at all. But it was nothing that was oppressive on the family at the time. We hardly ever went to church. It was more or less a kind of a liberal Christianity as what you'd see it nowadays.
All right. So when you were growing up, did you believe in Santa Claus, the myth of Santa Claus?
My parents taught me about Santa Claus. I didn't really tie it too much to the Christian faith or that type of thinking until much later. Now I believe Santa Claus is like God for kids. Mm-hmm. The punishments aren't that bad compared to hell. The rewards aren't that good compared to heaven. But it introduced you to an all-seeing person, mythical supernatural being
who is attempting to encourage your behavior or guide your behavior by using both rewards and punishments. Okay. So when giving up a belief in Santa Claus, did that maybe cause any undermining in your Christian faith?
Not really. No, it wasn't until I got into college and was exposed to other people's beliefs. We had people from all around the world come to the college, and they would share their beliefs and their deities and their belief systems, and I got to wondering, what makes ours much different than theirs or the next one's, and they can't all be right, but they can all be wrong. And when I got into Freethought company of free thinkers, it started to make a whole lot more sense.
Okay, and that would have been in college?
That would have been in college, yes.
Okay. Well, we invite people to call in and maybe tell us about their experience losing the faith in Santa Claus or related things. Let's see, we got some kind of a collection of ideas about from the members of ASK and RET of things that they don't have to worry about as free thinkers that maybe they used to.
What are the benefits of atheism? In other words, if you don't believe in God, how does that affect your life? What are the things that atheism would give you that as opposed to what religion would give you?
Okay. Well, one of the things we got from one of our members is kind of this: if you don't have to be a solitary non-believer for or an atheist for years anymore. There is a larger community, and there are books to read and websites to visit, and of course here in Knoxville, the two organizations of ASK and RET.
Right. But even as a believer, you have your organizations. You don't have to be alone. But once you do lose your faith in faith, as Dan Barker would do it, you do feel very alone. And the people on the religious side of it tend to push that. Say, you're not like us and you're not like anybody else. If you're not a believer, you're condemned to hell, first of all, and you're a bad person, and there's nobody else like you. You're sinful. And they try to bring you back into the fold. But none of that is true. You're not a bad person. You're not sinful. There's no such thing as sin.
If we define sin as some sort of a
transgression against a
deity. If there is no deity,
there's no
then
sin.
there's no sin.
Right. Now, you can transgress or mistreat your neighbor, your friend, your family.
Fellow human being or living creatures.
Right. You can treat them wrongly, but the thing about atheism is you can't turn to Jesus for forgiveness. You have to go to the person that you mistreat or steal from or hurt in some way to get their forgiveness. And if you think about it, an atheist would think hard and long before they would do anything to hurt someone. Where a religious person could do it and then just kneel down by their bed at sleeping time
apologize to God, so to speak.
Jesus. Yeah. It's all okay. Next day's a good day. Yeah. And Dan Barker put it this way: it says, if I steal from Peter and then get forgiveness from Jesus, it doesn't help Peter.
That's right. And if you're, of course, then also making contributions to the church, then in a way you've stolen from Peter, you've given to the church.
That's right.
And so the church is being part of a sort of a triangle of injustices here.
And there's a lot to be said. I mean, you can say that for like the Catholic Church and their sense of confession. You can sin for a week. You come in on the weekend. You give your confession. They say, "Okay, put an extra $1 in the plate, or do whatever." You're benefiting the church at the expense of the people that you've wronged during the week,
for whom you're feeling the normal human emotion of guilt.
Right.
All right. Well, let's see. We talked a little bit about Santa Claus and the thought police. Here is one of the comments one of the RET members sent in. You're free of the thought police dictatorship. Your thoughts are your own. Finally, you realize you won't have an omnipotent judge watching every thought.
And this judge has the power to throw you into hell forever. That's a hell of a thing to carry around with you all the time. Some people would say that that's akin to paranoia. Some people say that is paranoia, when you feel like you've got somebody reading your thoughts all the time. And especially somebody who has that kind of power over you, theoretically. You do not have to worry about hell anymore. if you may have been as a child going to a hell house, if you've been there and you realize how horrifying these things are that you're exposing children to.
It's a terrible kind of abuse.
It is.
Yeah.
You're exposing them to murder and drug abuse and abortions and just all of this kind of thing that you'd have to put R rating on if you showed it to them in a movie. But you carry them into a church or a hell house of some kind like that on Halloween, it's not scary funny. It's not funny at all.
Yeah.
This kind of thing scars kids for life, and I consider it abuse personally.
So, but growing up, you said you grew up in a rather liberal tradition, so you weren't a victim of anything like that.
Nothing like that,
Yeah.
no.
I growing up non-theist, I was never experienced.
That's a later
like
thing
that.
anyway, a later phenomenon. They didn't have hell houses within the last 20 years,
Okay,
15
so
years. So
this is a recent
development.
innovation.
Mhm.
Okay.
Right.
All righty. Let's see. We got a few more points you'd like to make. Any of these here your favorite?
Well, one of them is, as a Christian or any other type of...
We've got a call coming in, Larry.
Okay.
Why don't we handle
good.
this? You want to talk to him?
Sure, go ahead. Hello, you're welcome to Freethought Forum. May I have your name?
Yes, this is Eddie.
Hello, Eddie. You have a question or comment?
Yes, I was just curious. So, what do you have to say to the idea that atheists believe in nothing, or that if you don't believe in a higher power, that all things are allowable here on Earth?
Well, let me ask you something. Have you had that said to you, that atheists don't believe in anything?
Yeah, I have.
Okay. I was kind of wondering who would say that to you, because atheists believe in just about everything that everybody else does. Home, happiness, health, family, work, everything you can think of, except we don't believe in a God. And I'm kind of
And
curious.
so, what about if there's not judgment upon us? What things are allowable here on Earth?
What's the difference between not believing in a God and fear of the afterlife, or believing in God and knowing that you can be forgiven for whatever you do before you go to the afterlife?
That's right. Certain aspects of the Bible basically imply that you can be forgiven for nearly anything if you simply believe in Christ.
Right.
So that right there takes away a good deal of that. If we're going to argue that it requires that fear to keep people in check, then the Bible itself removes it.
A good example is Jeffrey Dahmer. I mean,
Yeah.
he went to prison for the things that he did, and in prison he found Jesus, and before he was eventually murdered in prison, you could say that he's in heaven now.
That's right. If certain parts of the Bible be true, Hitler, after committing all of his atrocities, could have accepted Christ and
probably ended the
and
bunker.
be up
I mean, he
there.
was a Catholic anyway, so he probably asked for forgiveness just before committing suicide in the bunker.
But Eddie, it kind of works like this. As human beings, we feel a connection socially and therefore morally to our fellow human beings. And in fact, I would enlarge that to say fellow living creatures. And that's what makes us want to treat them nicely. And in fact, maybe the ills of society are due to people who have a deficiency in that connection. As members of the Rationalists of East Tennessee, we are part of this book club, and one of the fascinating books we read as a group was The Sociopath Next Door. And it talked about the fact that about 4% of human beings don't feel the normal social connection.
Or human compassion, for that matter.
And so those people tend to be manipulative, and the extreme cases of them we know as some of the mass murderers, probably the Dahmers and the Ted Bundys, are people that don't have that normal connection. And truthfully, a fear of a deity is not going to necessarily change that in them. Did we answer your question, Eddie?
Yes, I did. I think you did. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you. We encourage more callers. We've still got a little bit less than 15 minutes of the program left, and you can call in. All right. Can we touch on some more of these points, Larry?
Well, you don't have to hate those anymore of the other religions or homosexual people that don't believe the same way that you do. It relieves you of an awful lot of this burden of hate that religion will throw onto you. Dan Barker's mother was a believer, and her son was a preacher, and the one she was very proud of. And one of the first things she said after he told her that she was not, that he was not a believer anymore, it took her by surprise, and it took her a while to understand the reasoning behind it, and finally accept it herself. The first thing she said after that was, "I don't have to hate anymore." Wow. And there's no reason to hate for the same reasons that religion will give you. There are things that I hate. I hate intolerance.
All right. And Larry, we've got another caller.
Here we go. A pretty busy day.
All right. Thank you for calling. Welcome to Freethought Forum. I'm Faithless Forrest. Can you give us a name or a nickname, please?
Jason.
Hello, Jason. Thank you for calling. And do you have a question or an observation for us?
Well, I just wanted to call. I have questions about religion myself, but
right.
For me I'm not sure if there is a God, or I'm not sure that the religions that are out there are a good representation of our God. But just like I have questions about God, I can't really call myself an atheist because I don't really know that there's not something out there too.
Let me make a point.
I like to consider myself sort of what they call a deist, where I don't necessarily take in everything that the religions of the world give to me, but I also don't want to forsake the idea that there is not a God.
Right.
I just have questions about it. So how do atheists come to terms with being able to say that there's absolutely nothing out there when you really
we don't say
can't?
that. We don't say that. We don't know any more than you do. An agnostic is a person who doesn't know. An atheist is a person who doesn't believe. We don't believe in gods, but we can't categorically state that there's no God. We just find the evidence is not very compelling.
Yeah.
So you would consider yourself an agnostic?
An agnostic atheist, yes.
Yeah, it's a kind of conversation that we often have with people who are new to the organizations. It's really a definitional splitting of hairs. It's interesting you mentioned deism. I hope you go find and read the description of deism by Thomas Paine. It's an interesting thing to read, and given that it was written a couple hundred years ago, it sort of shows the nature, the evolution of how people were trying to come up with a theory of life free of the Christian God, which is Jehovah. And in fact, I was going to...
free of the dogma of Christianity.
And in fact, I was going to...
in my case, with all religions, so a lot of people like to pick on a certain religion, but there's huge problems with Islam, there's huge problems with Judaism, there's huge problems with Christianity.
I have huge problems with anybody who not only says that God is real, but they know what He wants you to do. Now that's the difference between deism and all these different religions. I don't have a problem with somebody who says, I believe in God, and He started the universe and let everything go, that He's not watching us or condemning us or all that stuff. That is extra baggage. I mean, we don't know where the universe came from.
Right.
And Jason, I was, one of the things I like to say is, do you believe in Osiris? Do you believe in that Egyptian god Osiris, for instance? And
I do understand. I have heard of those Egyptian gods, yes.
And because we're not steeped in a culture with them, a lot of people are willing to right away answer and say, well, no. In other words, with confidence, they can kind of rule that one out. Well, with the same kind of confidence, I rule out Jehovah or Yahweh or the God who allegedly made everything in 6 days. I could put a little checkbox on that one and say, nope, that one's not for real. What we can't say is that there might not be some sort of a God who started it all but doesn't intervene anymore. That's actually kind of the God of Thomas Jefferson, which is a deism. And importantly, that's not Jehovah. So when we say God, it's a very different thing. It's not the capital G God that Christians are going to believe in. Mm-hmm. All right?
Yeah.
Right.
Did we answer your question?
Yes, I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Let me say thank you, and we hope we get some more callers. We've still got about 10 minutes left. So if you'd like to hear us speak about what atheism has to offer, give us a call at the number on your screen. And perhaps if you're an atheist yourself and you found something rewarding about giving up belief that you could share with us, that would help us along. All right?
Let me just read a few until we get the next call in here.
All right, yep.
You can finally exercise your own judgment in moral issues and not have to worry about what some supernatural being put in stone 20,000 years ago. Moral
or
issues.
2,000 years ago.
What? Yeah, right. 2,000 years ago.
All right,
or 4 or 3.
Larry, we got another caller here. You talk to him first this time.
Okay. Welcome to Freethought Forum. Larry Rhodes. Do you have a name or a nickname that we can use?
Yes, Larry.
All right, so you're Larry as well?
I am.
Oh, okay, cool. And did you have a question for us or a comment?
Yeah, I just wanted to make a comment. You know, as atheists, you're really not alone.
Oh, I know.
Many other people felt the same way.
Mm-hmm. Would you put up the slides for RET and ASK? We represent a couple of different organizations that are here in Knoxville. Total, they have about 400 members, paying and unpaying.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Sure.
You know, the Paul in the Bible, he was, I would say, an atheist. But later, he changed his mind.
Okay, yes.
But at some point where you seen evidence and you did develop some faith, would you change your mind?
I have an open mind. If I had the same experience that Paul did on the road to Damascus, I would probably accept that. The thing about it is, I would question it a little bit first. There's an awful lot of technology nowadays that exists that may simulate something like that. But
right.
At the same time, I'm not going to deny the evidence of my eyes and ears without question.
Yeah.
So.
And I do want to ask you one other question also, just kind of as an observation. This is something I thought about. What is your hope in?
Say again?
What is your hope in?
My hope is in a future for humanity. If you're a Christian, you don't have much hope for the future of humanity. Jesus is going to come back next week, and that'll be the end of it. Yeah. And that's a pretty dead-end hope, I would think. I mean, of course, you're going to be one of those, well, if you're a Christian, I don't know if you are, but you're going to be one of the special people that he zooms up into heaven and will live happily forever. But what about the rest of mankind?
Well, it might shock you, but I do not believe people will be zoomed up to heaven.
Okay. Well, what about the future? What's your future? What's your hope?
Well, my hope is, each person has to work out their own salvation.
Well,
and,
wait.
No, but we have to be seekers with open minds.
What were you being saved from?
Yeah, that's actually a fundamental disagreement we have with believers, is what are we being saved from?
Well, we're not really, but see, that's another point. You're not saved from anything. If you don't believe there's a God, the caller earlier was correct. There is no right or wrong.
Yes,
I mean,
there
on
certainly
basis
is.
did you say there is right or wrong?
No,
if there is no God.
Larry, let us answer that one.
Larry, hold on.
There would be no right or no wrong.
Yeah, let's answer that.
I'll get off the phone and listen to you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks for calling, though.
Mm-hmm.
You're quite welcome.
Oh.
Yeah, all right.
No, we beg to differ. Society has rules. We abide by those rules for certain reasons. We don't want to harm each other. We don't want to kill each other. We don't want to steal from each other because we don't want it done to us.
That's
right. There are
right.
reasons to do this, and you don't have to have an omniscient judge of right or wrong in supernatural plane to tell you this.
And even if it's a societal value, society doesn't have to get that only from a God.
No.
In fact, non-human animal societies often have that. We got another caller here, Larry.
Wow.
Let's bring him on.
Busy day.
Hello, this is Freethought Forum. I'm Faithless Forest. Can you give us a name or a nickname, please?
Christina.
Okay, Christina. Give us do you have a question or an observation for us?
Well, actually, I just have a comment.
All right.
I just wanted to share my heart with you. I turned on the channel and I had noticed the title. I am a born-again believer in Jesus, and I just want to let you know that I come from a religious background where I grew up in a Christian home, and, it was definitely, kind of what you could say, stuff down our throats that we had to believe in God. And I came to a point in high school where I questioned if God was real or not. And
could I ask, Christina, sorry, when you say if God was real, which God were you questioning the reality of?
The God of Jacob, Abraham, and Isaac.
Okay.
What about the other gods?
Right.
What about the other 10,000 gods that people believe in?
Or specifically Zeus of ancient Greece. Why didn't you consider him?
Well, because I knew I was familiar with the God that I was taught with.
Because
the
you were
one that
raised,
was most real to me.
You were raised in that family, the Christian family that shoved it down your throat.
So, Christina, what is the difference between Jehovah or Yahweh and Zeus?
Well, I believe that this God is a God of love. And what I was going to say to you guys is that a lot of Christians do have it wrong because they don't live their life and then they don't walk in love. They walk in judgment. And Jesus came to love, not to condemn. And so when I was in high school, I had to go through a point where I had to tell my dad, I don't believe in God. Okay. And of course that broke my dad's heart. And I said, Dad, I have to figure it out for myself. And I said, Lord, if you are really real, show yourself to me. I want to be able to see you. I want to be able to feel you. And there are a lot of different obstacles that happen in my life where God's love was made real to me.
Sure.
And his forgiveness. And I know you had mentioned something about hope.
Sure. Christina,
and I'll tell you,
we're about 2.5 minutes from the end of our program. We'd like to maybe address a few of the points you've got at this time, and feel free to call in next week. I want to thank you for offering us your heart. That's nice. Let me hang up at you now and say goodbye, and we'll give you a little more answer. All right.
Well, one thing is, it was real nice of God to give you the evidence that you need and to present himself to you. That's nice, but I haven't had that experience. Why wouldn't he do that for me? Yeah. During the time that I was a Christian, I prayed and asked for all kinds of evidence and asked him to appear and help me and all this. Never had any kind of confirmation. And to hear a story about somebody who said, I had a lot of troubles in my life, and all of a sudden, I got through them. It must be Jesus, must be God. We have troubles all of our life, all of us, even atheists, and we don't have supernatural beings get us through it.
I'd like to make a quick point, and Christina, we're not attacking you. What we want to do is sort of address what we believe is error. And I would say one of the differences between the Jehovah and the Zeus is that when you were about 6 years old, you weren't taught that one of them was the real one and the other one was maybe imaginary.
Yeah. Think of all the other families that are shoving their religion down their children's throat throughout the years at the earliest years, when they're young children who cannot question and not allowed to. And they're people that they love, people responsible for them, they're authorities in their lives. They have to take their words for this, and it affects them at a very young age.
All right. Well, thank you to all of our callers today, and we have a few closing statements here. You can email us at freethoughtforum@yahoo.com, and you can call the number on the screen and buy back copies of this program.
They will sell you several programs on a single CD.
All right. So this has been Freethought Forum with Faithless Forrest.
And Larry Rhodes.
And we want to thank Jonas and Sam for our technical help and the callers and everyone at CTV, and say Happy New Year 2011 to everyone.
Happy